In the heart of the unforgiving frontier, where loneliness cuts deeper than any knife, 45-year-old widow Abigail Turner had given up on love. Her cabin stood like a monument to solitude, surrounded by nothing but endless plains and bitter memories. But on this stormy October night, fate would knock on her door in the form of a wounded young cowboy with secrets as dark as the sky above. What happens when a woman who believes she's too old for passion meets a man young enough to be her son? Stay with us, because this story will challenge everything you think you know about love, age, and second chances in the Wild West. Chapter 1: The Storm and the Stranger. October 15, 1887, Nebraska Territory. The autumn wind howled across the Nebraska plains, rattling Abigail Turner's cabin windows. At 45, her hands bore the calluses of a woman who had learned to survive alone. The lines around her hazel eyes told stories of 11 harsh winters since tuberculosis claimed her husband, Samuel. She stirred the stew over her wood-burning stove, listening to the familiar silence that had become both companion and tormentor. Outside, the storm was building into something fierce. Knock, knock, knock. In 11 years of solitude, unexpected visitors meant trouble. She reached for Samuel's old Colt .45. "Who goes there, ma'am?" The voice was young, strained with pain. "I'm hurt bad. Please, I won't harm you." Lightning illuminated a figure slumped against her doorframe. He was young, maybe 25, with dark hair plastered to his skull by rain. Blood stained his torn shirt, and his left arm hung unnaturally. But it was his eyes that stopped her cold. The deepest blue she'd ever seen, like dawn breaking over the plains. Against every instinct, Abigail unlatched the door. "Easy there," she said, keeping the gun visible. "Come in slow." The young man stumbled inside, bringing the smell of rain, leather, and blood. In the lamplight, she could see him clearly: tall, broad-shouldered, handsome in a rugged way, but pale from blood loss. "Name's Jake Morrison. I'm grateful for your kindness, ma'am." "Abigail Turner. What happened to you?" Jake's laugh was bitter. "Wrong place, wrong time. Caught 3 men rustling cattle from the Patterson spread. They didn't take kindly to being interrupted." The story rang true. She'd heard about the Patterson ranch troubles. "Let me look at that arm." As she examined his shoulder, she caught his scent more clearly: rain, blood, and something distinctly masculine that made her pulse quicken in a way it hadn't for years. "Bullet went clean through," she announced, stepping back. "You're lucky. Guess it wasn't my time. You'll have to remove your shirt." When he struggled with the buttons, she busied herself gathering supplies. But when she turned back, her breath caught. Jake's torso was lean but muscular, marked with scars that told stories of a hard life. "You're staring," Jake observed quietly. Heat rose in her cheeks. "I'm assessing the damage." As she cleaned his wounds, an unexpected intimacy settled between them. The storm raged outside, but inside there was only lamplight and charged silence. "How long have you been alone out here?" Jake asked. 11 years. That's a long time to be by yourself." "I manage just fine." "Managing and living aren't the same thing, are they?" The question hung between them like smoke. Thunder cracked overhead, shaking the cabin. "You'll have to stay the night," she said. "Storm's too dangerous." "I don't want to impose." "You'll impose more by dying on my property." As she prepared bedding by the fireplace, she was intensely aware of Jake's presence. When she glanced over her shoulder, she found him watching her with an expression that made her pulse race. "Mrs. Turner?" "Yes. Thank you for reminding me that there are still good people in this world." That night, listening to Jake's breathing from the main room, Abigail stared at the ceiling, wide awake. For the first time in 11 years, she wasn't alone. And she wasn't sure she wanted to be. Chapter 2: Dawn Revelations. Dawn brought unfamiliar sounds: someone moving in her kitchen, dishes clattering, fire crackling. Abigail dressed quickly, catching her reflection in the mirror. When had those lines appeared? When had silver threads invaded her auburn hair? Jake stood at her stove, shirtless except for bandages, tending to bacon and eggs. In the morning light, she could see the play of muscles across his back. "Morning, Mrs. Turner. Hope you don't mind me starting breakfast. Where did you get? Checked your henhouse and smokehouse. I'll work to pay back what I've used." They ate in comfortable, charged silence. Abigail found herself stealing glances, the way he ate with appreciation, how he favored his injured arm, the unconscious grace in his movements. "Tell me about your husband," Jake said suddenly. The question caught her off guard. Samuel was a good man, strong, steady, everything a woman could want. What happened to him? Tuberculosis. Took him slow. The old pain flickered. By the end, he was so thin I could carry him like a child. Jake was quiet. "I'm sorry. That's a hard way to lose someone. Any way of losing someone you love is hard. You speak like you know." Jake's jaw tightened. "My wife, Sarah. She died giving birth to our son 2 years ago. The baby, he didn't make it either." The raw pain in his voice hit her like a physical blow. "Jake, I'm so sorry. She was 19, so full of life." His voice was barely a whisper. "And I couldn't save them." Without thinking, Abigail reached across and covered his hand with hers. The contact sent a shock through both of them. "It wasn't your fault." Jake looked at their joined hands. "How do you do it? How do you wake up knowing they're never coming back? You just do. One day, then another. Until one morning you realize you've survived another year. Does it ever stop hurting? No. But it changes. Becomes part of you instead of something trying to destroy you." They sat in silence, hands joined, both lost in memories. "I should go," Jake said eventually. "Can't stay in one place too long." "Where will you go?" Jake's smile was bitter. "Don't know. Since Sarah died, I've been drifting. Figured it was easier than staying with the memories. The fence around my north pasture needs mending," she heard herself say. "And my roof's been leaking." Jake turned to look at her. "Ma'am, I could use help. Someone with strong hands and willingness to work. Job comes with meals and a place in the barn." "Why would you do that? You don't know me. I know you made breakfast for someone who helped you. I know you loved your wife enough that losing her nearly broke you. That's enough. And you're not concerned about propriety? A young man working so close to a woman alone." The question hung loaded with implications. "I'm 45 years old, Jake Morrison. Old enough to make my own decisions about propriety." Jake's smile was slow, transforming his face. "Yes, ma'am. I believe you are." As Jake examined the fence line, Abigail watched through the kitchen window. She was 45. She'd convinced herself that part of her life was over. But maybe she'd been wrong. Chapter 3. Dangerous Desires. 3 weeks had passed since Jake stumbled into Abigail's life. Her small ranch, which had felt like a tomb, now hummed with activity. Fences were mended, roof repaired, cattle healthier under Jake's care. But the changes in herself kept Abigail awake at night. She found herself taking extra care with her appearance, choosing her best dress, pinning her hair more carefully. She lingered over cooking dinner, adding special touches. And she caught herself watching Jake work with an intensity that had nothing to do with supervising. The problem was he watched her too. Grateful glances had become something more intense, lingering on the curve of her neck, following the sway of her hips. "Mrs. Turner?" Jake's voice startled her. She looked up to find him in her kitchen doorway, hat in hand, work shirt damp with perspiration. "Abigail," she corrected. "What is it?" "Finished the barn roof. But I wanted to ask about something." His expression was troubled. "When I was in town, I heard talk." Her blood chilled. "What kind of talk?" "About those rustlers. They hit the Henderson ranch last night. Shot the foreman." Jake's jaw tightened. "They're getting bolder. And they're asking questions about a man matching my description. Someone's put a price on my head." "How much?" $50. "Dead or alive?" "A fortune on the frontier." "Maybe you should." "I'm not leaving. Not when you might be in danger. I can take care of myself." "Against 3 armed men?" "Abigail, I've seen what they can do. The use of her first name sent a shiver through her. Then what do you suggest? Maybe I should move into the house. The barn's too far if something happens at night. The suggestion hung between them like a loaded gun. The spare room, she said finally. It has a window facing the approach road. That evening, the tension between them was palpable. Every accidental brush of fingers, every shared glance, seemed charged with electricity. Abigail, Jake said as she rose to clear dishes. Can I ask you something? Of course. Do you ever wonder what your life might have been like if Samuel hadn't died? That's not fair. Why not? Jake moved closer. I mean the children you might have had. The life you never got to live. Because it doesn't matter. This is the life I have. But is it the life you want? He was close enough that she could see the green flecks in his blue eyes, feel the heat radiating from his body. I'm 45 years old. Too old for wanting impossible things. Are you? Jake reached out, touching her cheek. Because from where I'm standing, you look like a woman in her prime. Beautiful. Strong. Very much alive. Jake! This isn't what? Proper. His thumb traced her jawline. I stopped caring about proper when I realized I was falling for you. The words hit her like lightning. You can't mean that. You think I don't see the way you look at me? The way you light up when I walk into a room. You're young enough to be my son. I'm 26 years old. Old enough to know my mind. Old enough to recognize something real. His hands framed her face. Old enough to love a woman who deserves to be loved. This is insane. Maybe. But I'd rather be insane with you than sane without you. Then he was kissing her. The kiss was gentle at first, but Abigail found herself melting into him as 11 years of loneliness came flooding back. Tell me you feel it too, Jake murmured against her forehead. I feel it, but that doesn't make it right. Why not? We're both adults. We're both alone. A sound outside made them freeze. Horses. Multiple riders approaching fast. Jake pushed her behind him, drawing his gun. Get down. Blow out the lamps. As Abigail extinguished the lights, her heart hammered with more than fear. She was falling in love with him too. The sound grew louder. Through the window, she saw 3 riders with drawn weapons. We know you're in there, Morrison. Come out peaceful, and the woman won't get hurt. Jake positioned himself by the window. Whatever happens, stay down. Like hell, he muttered, cocking his pistol. The first gunshot shattered the night, and everything was about to change. Chapter 4. Love Worth Fighting For. Bullets splintered the window frame. Jake ducked, pulling Abigail down as glass showered her kitchen floor. Morrison, send out the woman and we might let you die quick. Jake's eyes met Abigail's in the darkness. Back bedroom window faces the creek. Can you? I'm not leaving you. Abigail crawled to Samuel's rifle above the fireplace. This is my home. More shots peppered the front wall. One man was circling around. She could hear hooves behind the cabin. I've been shooting since I was 12, she said, checking the rifle. Samuel taught me to defend this place. They moved with surprising coordination. Abigail covered the rear while Jake watched the front. Last chance, Morrison. Then come and earn it. Jake fired through the shattered window. The back door exploded inward. Abigail's rifle barked, and the man stumbled back, clutching his shoulder. His return shot sent splinters flying beside her head. What followed was chaos, gunfire, smoke, overturning furniture. They found themselves back to back, firing at muzzle flashes. How many shots? Jake asked during a lull. 3 left. I've got 4. They'll rush us next. Then we'll be ready. Jake looked at her. If we don't make it, save it for after. Tell me when we're both alive to hear it. All 3 men came at once. Abigail's first shot dropped the back man for good. Her second clipped another's leg. But her third went wide, and suddenly she was empty. She remembered Samuel's Navy Colt in the bedroom. Cover me. Bullets followed her, but she made it. When she emerged, Jake was pinned behind her table, one rustler advancing with a knife. Samuel's Colt bucked in her hands. The man with the knife spun and collapsed. The last rustler raised his hands. I surrender. Jake's final bullet caught his shoulder, spinning him into the wall. Why? Jake demanded, gun trained on the wounded man. What's this about? The rustler laughed bitterly. Patterson didn't just hire you to watch cattle. Word is you used to ride with rough men. Your old partners want you back in the gang. When you refused, he shrugged. Jake went pale. That was years ago, before Sarah. Your old friend Bill Crenshaw says hello. He's been looking for you since he found out you gave information to the law. Jake's face crumbled. They died because of me. Sarah and the baby. No. Abigail took his hand firmly. Sarah died because childbirth is dangerous. Your baby died because sometimes that's life on the frontier. Not because of your past. How can you be sure? Because I know you. I've seen how you care, how you protect what matters. She stepped closer. That's not a man who brings harm to innocence. The rustler made a disgusted sound. The old widow's got herself a young buck. Jake's fist dropped him unconscious. Don't, Abigail said quietly. He's not worth it. Jake turned to her. Earlier, I said I was falling for you. You did. And you said you were too old for impossible things. I was wrong. She touched his cheek. About being too old. About it being impossible. Even a man with a past like mine? Especially a man who's learned from his past. Who's grown because of it. She stepped closer. I love you, Jake Morrison. Jake's hands framed her face. I love you too. I know people will talk. Let them. I'm too old to care what narrow-minded people think. Are you sure? Because once we cross this line, we'll what? Think less of a widow who found love again. Her smile was fierce. That says more about them than us. This time when he kissed her, there was no hesitation. This was a kiss that claimed, that promised, that sealed something unbreakable between them. So what happens now? Jake asked. Abigail looked around her damaged cabin, then at him. Now we clean up this mess. Turn him over to the law. Repair what can be repaired. She met his eyes. Then we build a life together. People will say a 45-year-old widow and 26-year-old cowboy make an unusual couple. They'll be right. They'll also say we're scandalous and doomed to failure. And what will you say? That they're welcome to their opinions. But they don't get a vote in our happiness. Jake's smile transformed his face. You know what I think? I think you're the strongest, most amazing woman I've ever met. And I think it's time I stopped running from the past and started building a future. With me. If you'll have me. A reformed outlaw with baggage. Abigail laughed. Jake Morrison. I'm a 45-year-old widow with a stubborn streak and trust issues. If anyone should worry about baggage, it's you. Then we're perfect. Two damaged people who found each other when neither was looking. Perfect, she agreed, kissing him again. Outside, dawn touched the horizon. It would be the first day of whatever life they chose to build. There would be challenges, opinions, practical difficulties, healing from their pasts. But standing in Jake's arms, surrounded by wreckage of her old solitary life, Abigail felt something she hadn't in 11 years. Hope for the future. She had thought she was too old for passion, for love, for bone-deep connection. But in the arms of a man young enough to be her son but wise enough to be her equal, she realized age was just a number. Love had its own timeline, and theirs was just beginning. Come on, she said, surveying the damage. We have work to do. Yes, ma'am. Whatever you say, ma'am. Stop calling me ma'am. We're partners now. Partners. I like the sound of that. Good. Because you're stuck with me now. Jake's laughter filled the cabin as the sun rose over Nebraska, painting the sky gold and pink. It was the sound of a man who had found home, and a woman who had discovered it was never too late for second chances. The end. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell for more incredible frontier love stories.